we've learned anything this NASCAR season, it's that this playoff format no longer works. And at Martinsville, that was on full display because I think we saw this playoff format reach its breaking point. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, my name's Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we do motorsports media your way, talking about NASCAR all the time. And I just got back from Martinsville and I've been compiling my thoughts and I'm finally ready to share them all about how this race ended. But the first things first is talking about the winner of this race. Ryan Blaney goes back-to-back at Martinsville, doing what he did last year to win his way into the championship four. So he will join his teammate Joey Logano fighting for a championship at Phoenix alongside Tyler Reddick. So Ryan Blaney's going to try to go back-to-back, getting championships in 2023 and maybe 2024 this year. Joey Logano is trying to fight for his third championship, while Tyler Reddick is trying to capture his first. We all know the saying, short tracks equals short track tempers, and with that comes a lot of drama, and that drama towards the end of the race led to an almost 30-minute delayed decision post-race to figure out who made the championship four. Was it William Byron or was it Christopher Bell? In the final laps of the race, a series of events unfolded, starting off with the Chevrolet cars forming almost a brigade around and behind William Byron so no drivers could pass him to get position, meaning that William Byron would lose points around the cutoff line. And that wasn't only evident by what we saw on track, but if you were listening to the driver radios, like the driver radio of Austin Dillon, the team was talking about knowing the deal, and does the one team know the deal, and that deal being helping your Chevrolet teammate make it to the championship four. Meanwhile, in turn 3 on the final lap, Bubba Wallace slowed way down next to his Toyota teammate of Christopher Bell. They made contact. Bell got way loose, got up the wall when he got into the marbles, and rode the wall, almost resembling what we saw in 2022 with Ross Chastain, the Hail Melon. Ultimately, though, when Christopher Bell was able to cross the line, he crossed the line ahead of William Byron in points, meaning at that time, he made the championship four. But here's the thing. We all remember the Hail Melon was outlawed after Ross Chastain's Hail Mary of a move in 2022. Therefore, NASCAR had a decision to make following the race. Were they going to penalize Christopher Bell for doing what looked like a Hail Melon? And what would that mean for the championship four? Because this decision would decide who made it into the championship for the 24 car or the 20. And ultimately, it was NASCAR's decision to penalize Christopher Bell with a safety violation, meaning the penalty for that is they had his finishing position at the tail end of the lap that he was on, meaning he finished around the 22nd position. And with that said, Christopher Bell no longer had enough points to make it into the championship four, and William Byron did. So William Byron claimed that final spot in the championship four. After the race, Christopher Bell just didn't have words. He said, "I didn't mean to do the Hail Melon. That was never the intent. I got loose. I got into the marbles and I got into the wall. And that's where I was trying to get all I could get." And I ultimately don't think it's fair to compare the two situations, knowing that Ross Chastain's move was incredibly intentional in 2022, trying to get position on track to get the win in a dangerous way. It was cool, but very dangerous. For Christopher Bell, this was not intentful. It was a matter of getting loose, getting up the track, but there was no intent there to utilize the wall to gain ground on the track. With all of that said, Elton Sawyer did confirm that Joe Gibbs Racing cannot contest this decision as it was an in-race penalty. And after this, Elton Sawyer also talked about why NASCAR took so long to make this decision post-race, and ultimately it was they just wanted to make sure they made the right decision, which I can appreciate because this doesn't only determine who makes that final spot in the championship four, but it could ultimately determine who wins the championship. If this is the reason why William Byron is in the championship four, which it is, and we see him win the championship at Phoenix, this is the moment we come back to. So there's an entire mess right there, but there is a whole part of this that NASCAR refused to address in the moment, and that is race manipulation. From seeing the evidence on track to listening to the in-car radio, specifically of Bubba Wallace and Austin Dillon, the evidence is damning. Race manipulation or team orders were there. According to Elton Sawyer, though, they solely focused on Christopher Bell's run-in with the wall after the race and did not focus on anything going on between the 23 car and the rest of the Chevrolets forming that brigade. They did say, though, during this week, they plan to look over all of that. I don't know if anything's going to come of this second glance at what the 23 did, slowing up on the track, and what the Chevrolets did trying to protect William Byron. We don't know if anything's going to come of that, but he did say NASCAR will look at that during the week. And when NASCAR looks into this during the week, there's a whole other list of tricky questions that have to be answered or considered, such as, was this a direct order from the OEMs? Was this an order from the teams? Do you condemn the 20 or the 24 for the actions of their OEM teammates? Toyota, Chevrolet, What do you do and how do you police this now and how do you police this in the future? After the race, a lot of the drivers shared their opinions on all of this on social media, and ultimately Brad Keselowski made a tweet that really connected with me, saying that this should be the last straw on the camel's back for the playoffs. And I 100,000% agree. If we can take anything away from this NASCAR season, it's that this current playoff format no longer works, not even remotely. After a season filled with high highs and incredibly low lows, the amount of controversy surrounding calls directly related to or affiliated with the playoff system is absurd and embarrassing. Listen, I completely understand wanting unpredictability and excitement for your fans. I really do. This playoff format keeps the fans on the edge of their seat every single race because every single decision, every single mistake, whether it be on NASCAR's part or the driver's part, matters. But at what point is this too far? The issue is we've pushed the limits of this playoff system way too far to the point that it's hurting the legitimacy of the sport and the championship itself. These teams are incredibly smart, and this playoff format is not easy to compete in, but these teams have been able to learn and adapt to make this format work better for them, or they've learned how to push the boundaries of this format. The issue is when everyone is pushing those boundaries and the sanctioning body is having a very hard time keeping up with those boundaries that are being pushed and regulating those and policing those, we have a situation where the system just completely breaks. And I think that's what we saw at the end of the Martinsville race. We saw that when the teams figured out that they could protect another driver to get them into the championship four. We saw that with a potential Hail Melon move. Hell, we even saw that when NASCAR couldn't keep up with a rogue tire on the track in turn 3 and 4 as the field was going green. The field went green. The position still counted even though they went to caution before the field hit turn 1. It was a mess. All of this to say, there are so many compounding issues with this playoff format and with the policing of this sport that ultimately lead to an illegitimate season, an illegitimate championship, and just a mess altogether. And at the end of the day, all I can say is that this offseason will be incredibly crucial for this sport. They need to review the entirety of the rule book with everybody, make sure everybody understands what is breaking the rules, what is not, and make sure everybody understands completely what the rules are. Second, they need to review the rules that have been troublesome to the teams this year, such as the DVP clock, and make positive changes to help these teams and just the drivers during the race going forward. I think part of the issue right now is we have way too many rules and it overcomplicates the competition, so maybe getting rid of rules that they find unnecessary could maybe help, I don't know. But ultimately, the big thing that NASCAR needs to look at during the offseason is this playoff format, because I think at this point, it has to change. And it has to change for the sake of our sport and the legitimacy of the competition. What I would suggest is we go back to a similar style of the chase format. And I've said this over and over before in live streams, previous videos. I'm basically blue in the face at this point talking about where I think this playoff format should be, because NASCAR is very adamant on keeping a playoff format. And ultimately, I do think it is good for entertainment value. It's just a matter of balancing entertainment versus legitimacy of competition. So I say go back to something similar to the chase format. You have 12 drivers fighting for a championship within 10 races. We don't do anything elimination style-esque. If you really want the wins to matter, just double the points, but we don't do any 3-round elimination crap. We can't continue to do that. The playoff format we have now, we cannot continue to do. NASCAR has to take a serious look during the offseason at this playoff format that we have and make changes that make sense for the current state of the sport to better legitimize the state of NASCAR's competition. There is way more I could talk about, breaking down the stats from the championship 4 drivers that made it in this year for the NASCAR Cup Series versus the drivers that were just eliminated from the round of 8. That's probably going to be in a separate video. Regardless, it's time to move on from this rant. Ultimately, I feel like the results for this race don't really matter considering the outcome, but I will tell you, Ryan Blaney, of course, won this race. In second, we have Chase Elliott. Third, Kyle Larson. Fourth, Austin Cindric, a great race for him. Fifth, Denny Hamlin. Sixth, William Byron. Seventh, Austin Dillon, a good race for him as well. Eighth, Joey Logano. Ninth, Brad Keselowski, won a stage and led plenty of laps. And 10th, Ross Chastain. And overall, I do want to shout out Stewart-Haas Racing. It was a really good day for Briscoe and Ryan Preece, who were in the top 10 a lot of the race, and also with Noah Gragson finishing in the 11th position. Outside of my frustration for the current state of the sport, the playoff format, and just my exhaustion from talking about controversy every single week, I can set that aside and talk about the actual product of this race and how I thought overall it was a step in the right direction. I worked the race in the spring at Martinsville. I was not pleased by the product. I thought it was boring. I was very disappointed by the tire. Altogether, it was a major L for NASCAR. Coming into this race with a new tire from Goodyear, I was cautiously optimistic, and ultimately, I felt it was a good step in the right direction. Seeing a tire actually take rubber was very good. seeing that the drivers did have the ability to pass through the field, albeit it was still kind of tough, but it was better than it had been in the past, was good. I think some of the battles in the mid-pack, especially when we got down to the wire with Blaney, Larson, and Elliott fighting for that, what would have been the win and what was the win, was also really exciting. Again, a step in the right direction. The product still needs a whole lot of work, but I guess we're kind of getting there. I'm going to give this race a 70% above the yellow line. That's all I got. As for my predictions for the championship race at Phoenix, you all will have to join me live on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Above the Yellow Line channel to learn about our predictions, who we think will win the championship, and all of the above. So make sure to join us then. But that is it for this episode of Above the Yellow Line. I'm sorry it was more opinionated, more so than ever, in that it was a longer video than usual. But there was a lot to say this one. Of course, though, for more NASCAR news and more about this weekend, and as news comes out this week, make sure to go to TobyChristie.com and make sure to visit RacingAmerica.com as well. For more about us, make sure to go to AboveTheYellowLine.com. I've talked so much, I'm losing my voice. I have to go. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Above the Yellow Line. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this with your friends and family. I will see you all next time. Bye.